We are back live, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, the 24th day of February 2010. Big news blitz coming up. Get into the hypocrisy of law enforcement, state and federal government, not enforcing against criminals, but throwing the book at the American people and harassing us and violating all of our rights to basically break us like a pimp would break a whore into total submission. But the people are saying no. Let's go ahead now, and let's talk to Ron in Texas. Ron, you're on the air.
How you doing, Alex?
Pretty good.
Hey, it's been great to talk to you. I haven't been able to talk to you since Friday before the gun show, but I mentioned to you about a change in tactic relating to this Mr. Stacks bombing thing. Yesterday, with the article that you had with Mr. Dew about his interrelations with those L3, in his letter that he wrote, I'm not going to call it a manifesto because Karl Marx wrote a manifesto. That's a manifesto. This is.
I understand, but in his letter, go ahead.
Yeah, in his letter, he makes a reference to when he was working in Southern California, and at that time frame that he's mentioning in it, L3 was doing a lot of work in involving with the Global Hawk and everything else. I look at it like this. You were wanting to know where we see the state of the country going. I see it heading slowly as a probing tactic into what we will and will not accept. The incident with Mr. Stacks is still, to me, slowly, just like probably with anybody else, still looking like it's being staged. But I think he was onto something, and they silenced him, and they tried to set it up to where he was doing something and made it focus on him rather than the main issue.
Well, you get one of the most secretive companies involved in all sorts of remote control aircraft activity, and you've got one of their top Homeland Security people that's tied in with L3 owning the hangar his plane was in. And by the way, I'm going to get to that towards the end of the show. We now have the Statesman reporting he got to the hangar 2 hours before. So how did he set the fire at his house? I guess he could have time delayed it, but they say the house was on fire about 8:45. 2 hours before that, he's already at the hangar, 25 miles away. So the whole thing gets more and more suspicious. You have all these witnesses saying they saw no one in the cockpit. They could see into it, that the emergency workers from all over Travis County and the city of Austin were there across the street for a drill, that the FBI was on the ground before, and other reports seconds after the plane hit and the explosion was heard. You add the fact that they did send Geithner down here to grandstand and try to look like a victim for himself and the IRS. The fact that it did happen in Austin, you add all this together, it's getting very suspicious, and I'll go over that towards the end of the show because the file on Joe Stack is getting thicker just on the whole L3 situation, and we're investigating. Let's go back to the Genesis phone lines. Wade in Canada, you're on the air.
How's it going, Alex?
Good.
Thanks for everything that you're doing. It's awesome. I've been listening to you for about 6 months now. It's just amazing. I just want to speak about the Deborah Medina thing. Some people are saying that she's getting blackmailed, but even if she is, she should stand up for herself, if she did something in college or whatever, people make mistakes. Stand up, tell the truth, get it out there.
Well, I want to be clear. There's no evidence that she's being blackmailed. A couple callers have said that, and I've said there's no evidence of that. And, again, new listeners are tuning in every millisecond. That's a lady running for governor here in Texas that we've been supporting. And the whole Glenn Beck thing happened where he said she was a 9/11 truther. She said, no, I support people's right. She said it's, quote, healthy. Those towers did fall in a strange way. And then she said, days later, it's despicable and horrible, and agreed that we're this dangerous cult. And I'm saying, man, that's quite a flip-flop. That hurts my feelings. I didn't know I was despicable. And so I'm saying, what are they going to say about this? I'm angry about this. And most people agree and are angry. A few say, no, she is God. You don't question Obama. You don't question her. You don't question Glenn Beck. Just everybody has their own little camp followers where it's just worship, worship, worship. And that's not who I am.
Good. You got to stand up. Lots of people died for you guys to have the freedom of speech, and, you got to fight for that. And there's another thing about Glenn Beck. You could tell he's a phony because he goes there and he calls 9/11 truthers morons and idiots and stuff like that. But if he's actually a real American, he'd actually be like, good, question your government. Cause
no, he says a lot more. He says we're going to stage terror attacks and murder Obama.
Yeah. But it's him pushing everybody towards violence, though, right? But
absolutely. I appreciate your call. Days before the attack last Thursday in Austin, he was saying that these Tea Party people who are birthers are only 5% when the polls show it's more than half of Republicans question the birth certificate. And he was saying 9/11 truth's 5% of the population, another lie, and that we're all dangerous anti-Americans and violent. And then he put Deborah Medina's picture up on the blackboard and next to Van Jones and said, these people hate America. And I came to her defense and said, this is horrible. And instead, her response is just to grovel, prostrate herself before Glenn Beck. I mean, it's just incredible. And throw us under the bus. But I guess I'm supposed to say, that's all right. That's good. But again, it only seems to be, from what I've seen, a few people that are even in her campaign think they're going to get a job or something. It's like we're big city politics or something. They're like, no, it doesn't matter what she does. We've got to do this to win. You know, we've got to be deceptive. What? And some people are like, Alex is very Machiavellian. He's trying to make it look like she's not a 9/11 truther to save her. What? Save her? What Beck did to her really hurt her. Instead of gaining 5 points a week, 2 weeks after, she's lost 5 points. That's 15 she's lost. 10 she should have gotten on track, and the 5. She's got a 20-point now. And by her going into a tailspin and retracting like she's bad or something, people don't like that. No one likes that. But whatever. It's too bad. Let's go ahead and talk to Neil in Jersey. Neil, you're on the air. Neil. Okay, let's move on to Harold in Florida. Harold, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex?
Yes, sir.
This is Harold. I haven't called you in a number of years. I listen on shortwave. I'm a senior citizen that's getting a little non-articulate, I'll say, but I do have about 99% agreement on everything you say. Medina, the Stack thing, the 9/11 truth, Oklahoma City, Glenn Beck, Ruby Ridge, Waco, the whole thing. When you go off the air on shortwave, I guess the switch will get cut off on my receiver like it has on my television. You always say you choose your battles, and I agree with that. You make tactical decisions. Some I can't quite comprehend, perhaps. But there is a question I'd like to ask, and I'm sure your friends out here, and me included, would like to hear. What's the difference, and I'm going to use the buzzwords, of not being a truther, or in your case, not being a birther, okay? I'd like to hear a comprehensive explanation from both you and Deborah Medina. And
well, I tell you what, I don't even know her position on the birther thing, but the guys were in there watching a video of her on national TV getting slapped around by CNN. I don't know why people keep putting her on there. Stay there. I want to understand your question when we come back. Okay, Harold from Florida, specifically, you're saying what's the difference between a birther and a truther? Explain that question for me.
That was not the question. The question was, I understand what Deborah Medina said on her on the Limbaugh show about her stand there, and I considered that her stand was despicable. Okay, but as far as being whether she was a truther or not, as to use those words, I don't understand, however, and this is your program, you can throw me off, you pay the bill, but I don't understand your position on your stand where you said, I am not a birther. I believe the Barack Obama presidency is a total fraud, and I see comparison here between her not being a truther and you not being a birther.
Yeah.
Hold just a second. Article 2 of our Republic Constitution, Section 1, says that the president has to be a natural-born citizen.
All right, well, let me stop you. I understand the question now, and it's a good question. Number one, we've had Phil Berg on here repeatedly. We had him on back when this wasn't even on the radar screen during the campaign, okay? And I do think there's a cover-up going on. I've said I don't know, and I've said I think it's legitimate, but I can't call myself a complete birther because I don't know. Something like 9/11, I have so much evidence. And it does appear that he's not, we know his real name was Barry Soetoro. We know he did go to these Muslim schools in foreign countries, and the media would poo-poo that a year ago, right after he got in office.